A lot of people, like in the nursing program and outside of the nursing program, are always like, oh, why did you want to become a nurse? Or why did you pick nursing? And it's kind of funny because I always say that I didn't pick nursing. It definitely picked me. When I started college, I had, obviously, I went to college straight from high school, and I had gone into college as a music major. I was going to be a performance major with vocal as my instrument, and I was a music major on my college campus for one day. I had one music class, and the rest were like gen eds, like prerequisites and English classes and math classes and just the boring stuff that everybody has to take. And I spent one day in the class, and I used to work as a performer, so I would do like 2 or 3 gigs a week, like 3 nights out of the week. And I thought that the assignments the instructor gave us were crazy. She gave them to us on a Monday. 3 of them were in a foreign language, and she wanted them memorized completely by Wednesday. And I looked at her, I threw my papers down on the ground, and I was like, I do not want to do this. This is terrible. This feels like punishment. And I walked to the register and I changed my major. So that was, being a music major was kind of something I spent my whole life preparing for, and it was shattered in a matter of one day. So after that, obviously, I kind of had a quarter-life crisis of, oh my god, I don't know what I want to do, and it was really bad. And then I went to the career center, and they gave me this test, and the first thing on the list was like, oh, you'd be great at healthcare, and the second thing was you'd be great at teaching. And I was like, okay, well, I'm kind of afraid of blood, so that takes out the healthcare thing. I guess I'll try teaching. And I was in the teaching program for a year. I actually really loved the kids. My first field observation experience was great. I got to work with a bilingual kindergarten because I used to speak Spanish. Well, I wasn't bilingual, but like I was studying Spanish, and I used to be fairly decent. Now I suck because I don't remember any of it. But I was working in a bilingual kindergarten, and the kids were adorable, and they all loved me. All 28 of them were just like an absolute joy. Like, I looked forward to every Tuesday of every week because I got to see my little babies, and I loved them. But then the following year, I did field experience at a high school, and I had a change of heart. I was also working as a music teacher, and I realized that I'm not the best teacher in the world. I'm kind of bad at explaining things, or at least I feel like I am. I don't know. No one ever seemed to not understand, but I never really felt confident in my ability to teach. And I used to kind of go through the bookstore at my university and be like jealous of all the people who got to read all the books about like science and medicine, and I thought it was really interesting, but I kind of let my fear of blood and fear of facing my fear of blood hold me back. And I didn't pursue it, and everybody was like, oh, like you're bad at math, like you'll never get there. And I stuck with the teaching, and then I was like, maybe I'll switch to social work, or maybe I'll do like linguistics or something else because I like foreign languages. And then I was like, why am I doing this thing that like I'm not sure, like I don't know, I haven't even explored it yet. Like, why am I doing this thing that I'm still interested in, and I should like at least give it a chance. So I signed up for some prereqs, and like we had to take anatomy and physiology, which was terrible because we had to dissect cats, and I'm a cat person, as you can see. So that was like my worst nightmare. I felt like a terrible person for like that whole semester, but I got through it, and I didn't throw up, and I didn't pass out, and I only cried a couple times. So it wasn't so bad. I mean, it was still bad, but I got through it, so it was at least doable. And then I applied to nursing school, and I got accepted, thankfully. I was one in 40 out of maybe 3,000 or 4,000 people that applied. I was one of the 40 that got accepted after an interview and a really competitive selection process. So I've always been very grateful and very lucky that everything worked out for me. And I initially went into nursing school with the intention of becoming, a NICU nurse, because I was a preemie and I have a special interest in that field, and I love working with babies because babies are adorable and I love babies, and I've had baby fever for like ever. But then one day I was sitting in lecture and one of my instructors was talking about different certifications that nurses can get, like how you can like kind of attach them to the end of your degree. And I got curious because I was like, oh, well, that's cool, like if you have something you want to specialize in, like critical care or one of those things. And I was reading about forensic nursing, which is a relatively new field, and it just kind of interests me. Like, I've always watched those really kind of terrible reenactments of like forensic cases, like those forensic files and like those whodunit things, like not the CSI stuff that like the normal people watch, but like those really kind of poorly made documentaries. But I'm always trying to figure out like, oh, like who did it and how do I solve the case and what happened, and like I've always found like the science behind it really interesting. So I was looking into forensic nursing and I came upon this certification. It's called a SANE certification, and it stands for Sexual Assault Nurse Examiner. And there's two different ones you can get. You can get a SANE A for adults, so you'd be a nurse examiner for an adult patient, or you could be a SANE P for a pediatric assault patient. And I would probably lean towards specializing in pediatrics because I feel like I work better with kids than I do with adults. But I may even sit for both exams. It kind of depends where my life goes, I guess. But most people are kind of surprised, like, why would you pick something that seems so dark? And it's just because of my own personal experience. I went through something that I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy if I had an enemy, but I think it's what you do with those experiences that kind of can either like make you or break you. And when I was kind of going around with the idea of forensic nursing, I came across this Bible verse. It was actually the verse of the day in my Bible app, and it was kind of odd because it had happened like literally right after I was like, like I don't know, like if this is a good idea. And it was, I think it was a Genesis 50:20 or 50:30. I think it was 50:20. And the verse in my translation of the Bible basically reads like this. It's like, if you intended to harm me, but God intended this all for good so I could save the lives of many people. And it was just one of those things, like it kind of stood out to me, like it was like, wow, like that could not have been more literal, because I went through something and it was really bad, but then in the end I decided to take the experience and turn it into something else so that I could help other people who go through this and hopefully make their lives better, or at least get them on the path to getting their life back in order, or back to something that would be considered normal for them after going through, you know, something extremely traumatic and not something that anybody obviously would want to go through. And of course, after that I started, you know, doing my research, and I found this article, I think it was a Women's Day magazine, I actually saved it, where there's this lady, Henrietta Sykes, I think was her name, goes on and finds out that like there's all these evidence kits that are always going untested, like at the department, and how she made a big push to make sure that these kits actually do get tested and used so that people can, you know, have what's what's right and what needs to be done taken care of, like the perpetrators can, you know, face the appropriate consequences and be convicted if that's what needs to be done. And I thought what she did was like super admirable and awesome, because she didn't just do it for her, like she did it for a bunch of other people. And it's something that definitely needs to be talked about more. I've tried to help raise awareness, at least in my own school. You know, I can only do so much, but I'm definitely always open to like talking about it with people, or at least just sharing with them what I know, and which isn't very much at the moment because I don't even have my degree yet, but I'm getting there. I'm almost there. 7 months away. Just about to start the fall semester. Yeah, but that's pretty much why I picked forensic nursing. It's definitely an interest of mine. There's other avenues of forensic nursing where you can work more as like with the medical examiners and like determine cause of death, but like people think like forensic nursing with survivors is upsetting, but that I would find particularly disturbing. I feel like it would just give me nightmares. But there's different specialties for all different kinds of people for different reasons, and it all just depends on what you're passionate about, I guess. And even still, just being someone with a disability, it's also more motivation, because people with disabilities are also targets more often because they're seen as being weaker, or sometimes they physically are. Like, I don't physically have the strength of your average able-bodied person, but it's definitely something to consider, and I've always wanted to be an advocate. I always fight for the people or animals who don't have anyone on their side. It's kind of always been my nature ever since I was a kid. One of my instructors actually called me a voice for the voiceless, which was, I guess, pretty accurate, even though I didn't know it at the time. And yeah, so that's just a little bit of my story and why I chose nursing and why I am choosing, or am hoping to choose, forensic nursing later down the line.